In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast. We are the brave and the bold.
I mourn the passing today of Major Richard J. Meadows, USA retired, whose dedicated and exceptional service is cherished by everyone who knew of his extraordinary courage and selfless service. I recently asked General Wayne Downing, the Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Special Operations Command, to present the Presidential Citizens Medal to Major Meadows. I am gratified to know that Major Meadows' wife Pamela and son Mark, a U.S. Army captain, and his daughter Michelle will receive this award tonight at the gathering of those individuals involved in the Sante raid at Hubert Field. Although this now will be a posthumous award, I am pleased that Major Meadows knew of this honor before he died. To Major Meadows' family and his friends and to the Special Operations community, I extend my heartfelt condolences. We will all remember him as a soldier, and one of America's finest unsung heroes. This was very difficult for me. Not because it's a touching thing. It was difficult for me because this is a statement made by President Clinton, and I fought against every fiber of my being to try to do a Bill Clinton voice with this.
The Abracast, occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
Tonight we're recording straight out of a story between the chapters of Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged or 1984 or whatever dystopian bullshit you're reading. The world's gone nuts, everybody, and that's where we're recording from. The mad, mad world, my hidden bunker in the steel buckle of the Rust Belt, deep below the Stigmata Studios building. I'm John Towers, and this is the Abracast. We kind of just pulled this one tonight. I feel like the world might need, Americans might need a story about an American hero. I was working on this thing about a new sort of term that I came up with. I was working on this thing called intersectional ecumenism, but it's not the right time. It's not the right time, brothers. So we're going to be talking about Major Dick Meadows this evening. And before we get started, let's see what's going on here in my little world. I just finished the Water of the Art operation. I might be a little bit out of it. I'm recording at a weird date. A weird day for me to record because I'm going out of town, getting ready to do my next magical operation, which I'm not telling anybody about, but it's going down on the solstice. So that's, by the time you're listening to this, it's going to be over anyway. So I got finished with my last one, and if you are owed jars of Water of the Art, they are on their way, except for my man in Finland, because I did not have the patience to work on the custom forms, but maybe this week I'll get to it. Speaking of Patreon and Subscribestar people, we got some new people this week, so I want to give a shout out to the lovely Dark Fader. Thank you very much. She is a Vessel of the Art supporter. Thank you. And then also Robert. I don't want to dox you, Robert, so I'll withhold your last name. But here's to you guys. And if you're out there and if you're generous enough to have a vessel of the art, go ahead and raise it with me. And if you don't, just whatever bullshit you're drinking out of, just raise it up, your weapon of mass distraction, and thank these people. Without these people, the show wouldn't exist. Here's to you. Thank you. Quick reminder, because we've been going through the coming insurrection. We just had Trevor Loudon on the show. And because of this intersectional ecumenism, I included a bunch of stuff on the newsletter page, so you could sign into the Fulgar Correspondentia. It's just a fancy name for my newsletter. You get access to basically it's just like a clearinghouse of bonus stuff and content. We got a bunch of stuff together about the coming insurrection, and I found a piece about the Syrian rebels that Trevor and I talked about. And then because of this intersectional ecumenism thing, I also went and found stuff on Burn the American Plantation Down. So all that stuff's up there now. It'll be included in the newsletter when it comes out at the beginning of next month, but you can get access to it now on the website. So you sign up for the newsletter, and you get an email giving you a link to like an exclusive part of the website or whatever. It's free, and there's tons of free content on there. And I don't pound anybody's asses with the newsletters once a month. So that's that. There's also, we have another vessel of the art supporter, Matt, who, because of the commission of his daily duties, he keeps an eye on geopolitics, and he's been rounding up articles and stuff that we're going to start including on there. So if you are like, what the fuck is going to happen next? Matt has got your back. Matt's got your back. I think I called the section Matt's Game of Global Domination or something like that. So that's interesting. All right, enough of that. Let's get to this. I don't want to babble on too long. The featured material for this evening is America's Greatest Special Ops Soldier, Major Dick Meadows, by Major John L. Plaster. And we're also going to talk MACV-SOG History by Robert Seals, USASOC, that's Special Operations Command. And I found this one at army.mil. This guy's career is so weird, I had to find something just to describe what his job was. So it's interesting. Okay, so let's get into this. If you're interested in these war stories, feel free to check out the feature topic link on the website. There's plenty of modern war stories on there, and also like quite ancient war stories peppered out throughout that featured topic link. I'm really proud of that featured topic link. If you decide to join the Patreon or Subscribe Star, you get access to like hundreds of bonus stuff. We archive episodes every month, plus there's at least one exclusive episode every month, and you get some for the higher tiers, you get some swag like a vessel of the art and other goodies. And then also you get to see and hear behind the scenes video footage and audio footage of my latest magical operation. Okay, so Dick Meadows was a self-made soldier. There was no one like Dick Meadows. He lived the life on which books are written in plural. Born in a dirt floor West Virginia moonshiner's cabin in 1947, Meadows lied about his age to become a 15-year-old paratrooper. Then so distinguished himself in Korea that he was that war's youngest master sergeant at 20. The quick learning but largely self-taught Green Beret acquired such a descriptive vocabulary and sophisticated style that it surprised people to learn that he had only a ninth grade education. The British SAS, with whom Meadows served 2 years on exchange in his late 50s, thought so much of him they entrusted him with the serious responsibilities. In fact, an SAS sergeant major entrusted him with his daughter, Pamela, for a bride. In the early 60s, they deployed covertly with other Green Berets to Laos. Led by Colonel Arthur Bull Simmons, they trained Kaha tribesmen to fight the Peth Lao and in the NVA. These Project White Star men were withdrawn when Laos was declared neutral at the Geneva Conference. So we're going to get into this thing called MACV-SOG, MACV-SOG. This is written by Robert Seals, USA Special Operations Command, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Today marks the 55th anniversary of the activation of the Military Assistance Command Vietnam, the Studies and Observation Group, MACV-SOG. In the Republic of Vietnam, the Military Assistance Command Vietnam Studies and Observation Group was activated January 24th, 1964, to function as a joint special operations task force commanded by a U.S. Army Special Forces colonel. MACV-SOG was a subcomponent of MACV, born from a need to conduct more effective special operations against North Vietnam. Many Central Intelligence Agency programs were transferred to the SOG, which eventually consisted of personnel from the U.S. Army Special Forces, the U.S. Navy, Sea, Air, Land, or the SEALs, and the U.S. Air Force, U.S. Marine Corps, Force Reconnaissance, and CIA personnel. Special operations were conducted with North Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. It was a holiday there in Cambodia, and South Vietnam. MACV-SOG grew in size and scope over the next 8 years. Missions evolved over time and included strategic reconnaissance, direct action, sabotage, personnel recovery, psychological operations, counterintelligence, and bombing damage assessments. Maritime operations covered the coastal area of North Vietnam. The PSYOP missions included the Voice of Freedom radio broadcasts into North Vietnam to publicize the advantages of life in South Vietnam. The so-called Ho Chi Minh Trail, a vital enemy logistical systems named for the North Vietnamese commie leader, was a target of many operations, and the trail was a well-developed highway that ran from North Vietnam through Laos and Cambodia. The communist insurgency was sustained by the trail. As troops, trucks, tanks, weapons, and ammunition flowed south into South Vietnam, aerial reconnaissance of the trail was difficult. SOG teams provided the most reliable boots-on-the-ground intelligence. SOG headquarters remained in Saigon, with subordinate commands and units located in various forward operational bases over the years, with command and control camps, launch sites, training centers, a radio relay site, and all 4 U.S. Corps tactical zones. By late 67, MACV-SOG had matured and split into 3 subordinate geographical commands: Command and Control North, Command and Control Central, and Command and Control South. CCN at Da Nang was the largest in size and conducted operations in southern Laos and northern Cambodia. CCC at Kon Tum also operated in southern Laos and northern Cambodia. CCS at Ban Mae Thout was the smallest and operated in southern Cambodia. Holiday in Cambodia. SOG command and control sites were operated independently. Each was organized based on the ground tactical situation, but all 3 had reconnaissance, reaction, and exploitation and company-sized security forces. Each site was about the size of a modern special forces battalion. Reaction or exploitation forces were used to extract reconnaissance teams or conduct raids or other assault missions. Reconnaissance teams, or RTs, were consisted of, listen to how crazy this is, consisted of 2 to 3 Americans and 6 to 9 indigenous personnel, normally Vietnamese, Montagnards, Montagnards, you pronounce it better, Cambodians, or ethnic Chinese. Teams were given a variety of code names: USA states, poisonous snakes, weapons, tools, or weather effects. Support troops on site provided logistical, signal, medical, and military intelligence support. Each mission was unique, but most followed a similar tactical profile. After being alerted of a mission, the reconnaissance team was briefed and conducted detailed planning, rehearsals, inspections, and training. Time permitting, teams were inserted by helicopter into the target areas. Team leaders were Americans and designated 1-0s, with an American assistant team lead, the radio operators serving as 1-1s or 1-2s. Indigenous troops were 0-1, 0-2, and so forth. Teams were given considerable latitude regarding tactics, uniforms, and weapons. Captured enemy equipment was often used. Vital communications were maintained with a forward air control fixed-wing aircraft, such as airplanes coordinated for close air support or for immediate extraction if a team was compromised or upon completion of a mission. A mission lasted from 3 to 5 days. SOG was all volunteer, and personnel could leave without prejudice. So the way that I understand it happened is when you graduated Special Forces school, you're a Green Beret, and you go through, like, right after the thing, and they sit you down, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to come work for the CIA? You either go. Do you want to go work for MACV-SOG?" And you either say yes or no. And if you say yes, they go, "Okay, take all your rank off and go stand over there. Take all your bullshit off and go stand over there." And then you just get bussed to this fucking CIA site, the CCC or the CCS. And you're there, and you're like, "Hey, it's the other." Also, the other interesting thing is they went on seniority in country, seniority with MACV-SOG, and not your rank. So say there was like a sergeant who had been at the SOG for longer, and a lieutenant graduates or whatever, and he goes and he says, "Yeah, I'll go work for the CIA." So they send him over to MACV-SOG. In a regular army unit, no matter what, that lieutenant would be the lead. He would be the leader. But in this case, the sergeant would be the 0-1, and the lieutenant would be the 0-2. I think it's so interesting, and that's the way the whole fucking army should work. After 1970, the scope and intensity of SOG operations were affected by the Vietnamization of the war, the steady withdrawal of U.S. forces from Southeast Asia. March 1971, 5th Special Forces Group, the largest source of volunteers for the unit, returned to Fort Bragg, North Kakalaki. Congressional restrictions prevented U.S. personnel from accompanying operations into Cambodia and Laos. On April 3rd, 1972, the unit was deactivated. Colonel Clyde R. Russell, Donald D. Blackburn, and John K. Singlaub, Stephen Cavanaugh, and John Sadler served as SOG commanders, SOG commanders. The first true JSOTF organization formed to support the theater campaign. SOG blazed a trail from the current Army and Joint Special Forces Operation Task Force in the war against transnational terrorism. The teams conducted special operation missions and across international borders to support the commander's mission in Vietnam. 9 ARSOF-SOG soldiers received medals of honor, and the unit was awarded a Presidential Unit Citation. Some sources credit the organization with providing upwards of 75% of the intelligence on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. SOG, innovative tactics, personal equipment, and lessons learned influence the Special Operation Forces to this day. So I obviously can't do these guys justice, but I'm sure you might know the Jocko Willink podcast. He has talked with like Stryker Meyer, Tilt, and the Frenchmen, who are MACV-SOG guys, and he has just hours of just talking to them and hearing their stories. If you're interested in this MACV SOG stuff, if you're interested in more stories or more details about that, I suggest the Jocko podcast. Okay, back to Dick Meadows. It was in SOG, the top secret studies and observation groups, the Vietnam War's Covert Special Operations Unit, that Meadows really shined. He spent 2 years in SOG, all of it running missions deep behind enemy lines in Laos and North Vietnam, while leading Chinese new mercenaries on Recon Team Iowa. Before each operations, Meadows built a terrain map in the dirt and had his whole team memorize the prominent features. Meadows did everything meticulously. Everything was rehearsed. Then Major Scotty Currier recalls, you could have taken a film of his mission preparation and used it as a training film. Like a martial arts master, certain of his abilities, Meadows possessed an unegotistical confidence. Fearless, but not oblivious to danger. He was a practitioner of the tactically sublime, able to assess the situations in a glance and weigh his alternatives and act in a flash. Much of Meadows' reputation evolved from capturing prisoners, in which, according to then Colonel Jack Singlaub, Meadows proved SOG's most prolific prisoner snatcher. Here's a different way to read that. Meadows proved SOG's most prolific kidnapper, bringing back 13 NVA from Laos. He once arrayed Recon Team Iowa beside a trail when, instead of the desired one man, 5 NVA strolled up, stopped right there for lunch. Meadows stepped out and announced, "Good morning, gentlemen. You are now prisoners of war." Despite his warning, no, 3 went for their AKs, so yes, Meadows shot them faster than you read this. The other 2 proved surprisingly compliant. Meadows is cunning, thought one of SOG's most accomplished combat leaders, then Captain Ed Lacine, who added with a touch of awe, "He is a killing machine. And I mean to tell you, Meadows is a calculating, cool guy." Chief SOG Donald Headhunter Blackburn is highly decorated World War II guerrilla leader, so admired Meadows that he thought of him as a son. Battlefield Commission. Meadows had a knack for making history in 1966 when he proved North Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Van Dong a liar. Pham had been insisting that not a single North Vietnamese soldier had been sent to South Vietnam, telling the U.S. anti-war activist Tom Hayden such allegations were a myth fabricated by the U.S. imperialists to justify their war of aggression. Pham's deceit seemed by its magnitude unbreachable. Was this a war of conquest from the north, or a popular revolt by southern Vietnam's peasantry? General William Westmoreland couldn't offer congressional doubters a smoking gun. Then Meadows helped out, laying beside a Laotian Highway 110 with his RT. that's Recon Team Iowa, was watching North Vietnamese soldiers and porters pass by. Meadows pulled from his pocket a Pen EE camera. He crawled forward and snapped a whole roll of photos. Then he and his assistant team leader, Chuck Kearns, crawled back beyond enemy earshot, and Meadows decided on even more dangerous gambit. In Kearns' rucksack was an 8mm motion picture camera, which he brought along on a lark. Meadows took it, crept precariously close to the trail, and began rolling, shooting a few frames of each NVA that came to his viewfinder. Footage of such perfect exposure that it came out like a mug shot. For an hour, Meadows laid there and recorded nearly a whole battalion, hundreds of heavily armed North Vietnamese marching alongside porters toting loads of military supplies. Chief SOG and Meadows personally brief his findings to General Westmoreland, who couldn't help but to praise Meadows and SOG. Meadows' film was rushed to Washington and presented in a closed-door briefing of select congressmen who nodded, convinced that Hanoi was lying. A few months later, Meadows penetrated North Viet, an NVA Laotian cache, which contained Russian-made artillery pieces. The howitzers were too big to carry back even for Meadows, so he photographed them and brought out their sights. Again, Chief SOG had Meadows brief Westmoreland, who almost hugged the intense Green Beret Master Sergeant when he presented a souvenir, a Soviet-made artillery sight. Westmoreland noted it was exactly such evidence which finally prompted the State Department to relax its restrictions on firing into the demilitarized zone. Deeply impressed by the sincere, quiet-spoken Green Beret, Westmoreland gave Meadows a direct commission to captain the Vietnam War's first battlefield commission, and cited him by name in his memoirs.
Learn more at abracast.com. Get bonus content by signing up for the mailing list. Get all that plus many exclusive episodes by supporting the show at patreon.com or subscribestar.com.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I like coffee, bonfires, walks on the beach, old books. But you know what I really like? The paranormal. Strange stories and experiences. Psychic phenomena. So, if you're interested, come join me and bring an open mind and a healthy dose of skepticism. And we'll see what happens.
In October 1966, Chief SOG Jack, they keep talking about this guy, and I can't fucking pronounce his name, Jack Singulaub, chose Meadows to lead SOG's first American-led operation to the heartland of North Vietnam to rescue a downed U.S. Navy fighter pilot. Lieutenant Dean Woods had parachuted into a heavily jungled ridgeline halfway between Vinh and Hanoi, 30 miles inland, where for several days he had been evading NVA searchers. Launching by Navy helicopter off the carrier Intrepid, Meadows took a 13-man team that made it within 500 yards of Lieutenant Woods when the NVA captured him. A cautious soldier would have taken his men to the nearest extraction point and departed enemy territory. Chief SOG Singlaub said, but Meadows was not overly cautious. Coming upon a major trail, Meadows set up an ambush to capture a prisoner. Momentarily, the NVA officer and 3 soldiers walked up, alert, still searching for Woods, apparently unaware that he had been captured. The NVA soldier's astonishment, Meadows stepped forward from the dense foliage, leveled his AK-47, and called a friendly, "Good morning!" As one, all 4 NVA went for their guns, but Meadows shot first, killing them all in one blur. While his men searched the bodies, Meadows radioed for an exfiltration, and soon they were on their way out. After the war, Meadows met Lieutenant Woods, who spent 6 years as a POW, and presented him with the Tokarev pistol that he had taken from the dead NVA officer. The POA, or the POW rescue at Sante. Meadows' best-known mission had to be the Sante raid. The November 1970 attempted rescue of American POWs from a prison 23 miles west of Hanoi. Meadows didn't merely lead out the assault element, but served as the primary trainer of the entire raiding force, teaching them everything that he had learned about close quarters combat and small unit tactics. When the raiders landed at Sante, it was Meadows' voice on the megaphone that called, "We are Americans. Keep your head down. This is a rescue. We'll be in your cell in a minute." But Sante was empty. The POWs moved while the camp was being refurbished. Though an intelligence failure, the raid boosted POW morale and compelled Hanoi at last to cease mistreating American prisoners. They're like, hey, we got to stop beating these motherfuckers because they're going to get their dudes back. Sante inspired the Israeli rescue missions 6 years later at Antibes, right down to the megaphone instructions to the captives. Our man in Tehran. Dick Meadows retired within 30 years of service in 1977, but he couldn't stay away for very long. When Colonel Sergeant Charlie Beckworth asked him to be the civilian trainer on his newly formed counter and terrorist unit, Delta Force. The adaptable Meadows applied all that he knew of long-range raiding, recon, and close combat and modified it to fit the terrorism environment, resulting in the world's most respected counter-terrorist organizations. He retired again in 1980, and a few months later came back to assist Delta's hostage rescue in Iran. The Carter administration had gutted CIA of operatives capable of reconning the U.S. Embassy in Tehran after leading Delta Force planners without the tactical details they needed. A CIA bureaucrat initially rejected Meadows as a covert advance man, calling him an amateur with a poor cover, poor backup, and poor training. Meadows told the CIA he'd go to Tehran with or without their assistance, giving those options. CIA Director Stanfield Turner approved Meadows and had him issued a false Irish passport. Apparently, Iranian immigration couldn't tell the difference between an Irish brogue and a West Virginia twang because they waived Meadows, posing as Richard Keith, a European auto company executive, right through customs. Meadows surveilled the U.S. Embassy, reconned Delta Force's planned route into the city, and watched for any hint of hostile counter-surveillance at the warehouse in which the CIA and the Green Beret advance team had hidden Delta's trucks and gear. Meadows would guide the Delta raiders, then join them in the assault. But they never got to him. Deep in the Iranian desert, Delta's mission was aborted. 2 aircraft. This is famous, by the way. This is Jimmy Carter getting fucked in the ass on a global scale. 2 aircraft collided. His helicopters had to be abandoned in their rush to escape. The chopper pilots haphazardly left behind documents that disclosed Meadows' warehouse location. Due to satellite communication problems, Meadow did not learn what happened for 24 hours and barely escaped into Turkey. So those hostages sat. Oh, hold on. Meadows also played a yet undisclosed role in the 1979 rescue of 2 Ross Perot employees from an Iranian prison, a mission led by his own boss, Colonel Arthur Bull Simmons, which was the basis of Ken Follett's 1983 bestseller, On the Wings of Eagles. So after that failed rescue attempt, Carter just abandoned those hostages in Tehran. He just let them go, or whatever. He just wrote them off. And he was like, well, what are we going to do? What can we do? You know, Jimmy Carter, like doddering old peanut farmer. What can we do to get him back? What can we do to get him back? Well, what was happening in America at the time was... it was coming up on election year. It was coming up on election year. You might have heard of him. Some guy named Ronald Reagan was out there, and he was talking tough about these hostages Iran. And he's like, when I become president, there's not going to be any hostages in Iran. And all the people in Tehran that were holding the hostages just patiently waited to see what happened. And as soon as Jimmy Carter lost the election in a landslide, within 24 hours, they were like, we're going to let these motherfuckers go. And they let the motherfuckers go, and they were on a plane back to America. And Reagan didn't have to issue a threat as a president. He was just like, I'm here now, bitches. Let them go. Meadows' last patrol, despite an affinity for bass fishing, Meadows still could not retire. In the mid-1980s, he volunteered to operate an aircraft refueling front in the Caribbean to ensnare Colombian drug cartel smugglers, and he operated for a decade in Peru, helping plantation owners and businesses defend themselves from Sendero Luminosa terrorists who had liked nothing more than to put a bullet through him, and they never got close. Twice he told me he'd become frustrated by inadequacies of the war on drugs and doubted the U.S. sincerity, though he was not on the U.S. government's payroll. Many times over the past decade, he helped the community in ways which must remain unsaid. Several times he negotiated the release of kidnapped victims of South America. Within weeks of his death, Meadows was still active in Central America. During his career, he'd been awarded every U.S. Valor Award except for the Medal of Honor. If he hadn't done so many things that are classified, he would have been the most decorated soldier in the Army. Colonel Elliot Bud Sindor, the ground force commander at Sante, told Newsweek magazine in 1982, it was a cover story, when Ross Perot learned of Meadows' imminent death, he reportedly phoned President Clinton to see that he was awarded the Presidential Citizens Medal. It was presented posthumously to his family by a U.S. Special Operations Commander, General Wayne Downing, who relayed the president's condolences and called Meadows one of America's finest unsung heroes, which we heard in the cold open. Facing the certainty of death in his last week, he told me, "It's like I'm preparing for one last patrol." In those final days, General Downing assured Meadows that there would be a SOCOM award for young special operators to commemorate his name. Having come so close at Sante and Tehran, Dick once told me his only unfulfilled wish in life was to lead one that succeeded. That's the job now for younger men. And his record will inspire and perhaps a recipient of the award that bears his name. Here's the Presidential Citizens Medal citation. With courage, innovative, and devotion to duty, Major Richard Meadows, U.S. Army retired, has made extraordinary contributions to the security of his nation. After enlisting in the Army at age 15, he became the youngest Master Sergeant of the Korean War. His exceptional Special Forces and civilian career included operations behind enemy lines in Vietnam, for which he received a rare battlefield commission. Leadership in a daring rescue attempt of POWs at Sante prison near Hanoi. Infiltration into Tehran for the Desert One hostage rescue mission, and a key role in establishing the elite Delta Force. He responded. He repeatedly answering our country's call and taking on the most dangerous and sensitive missions. Few have been willing to put themselves in harm's way for their fellow countrymen. Bill, I did not have sex with that woman. Jefferson Clinton, July 26, 1995. So, hey, I'm John. This has been the Advertise. Hey, I know this probably seems like a weird topic for today with all the stuff going on in the world, and I agree, it is weird. I could have totally did the ecumenical, intersectional ecumenical stuff, but I could have picked something else. I mean, not to be like Mitt Romney or something, but I have binders full of topics here that we could do, and I could have picked any one of them. And I picked this one to be a little something different. And also at the same time, I know with the coming insurrection episodes and then with Trevor Loudon, like I really been pounding on this Antifa insurrection business, but I feel like this, I mean, I don't know what the truth, I don't know what it is, but I guess I hope that when people tune into this podcast, they're not just like, well, let's listen to this motherfucker get drunk and talk shit about wizards and blowjobs. Like, I hope that's not the thing. To me, that's not the thing. To me, we talk about, in my point of view, we talk about depth psychology, son. We talk about history that no one talks about, and we talk about, conspiracies that are real. Like, I'm not talking about like secret space missions and, this kind of, we talk about conspiracies that we see around us every day, and we talk about depth psychology, and we talk about history that no one talks about. And to me, it's not just a place where we go to listen to me get drunk and talk about blowjobs and wizards. I mean, on some level, I guess that is true. But to me, I feel like maybe we need to take a breath away from all the craziness and just talk about something, admirable. Talk about a dude that we can all kind of be like, man, even if you're just like, fuck him, he's kidnapping Vietnamese people, like there's a thing to be said about having the balls to do that, to stand up, and to keep going back for more every single time, even though, the big ones kind of got away from them or whatever, so I guess that's where I'm coming from, and maybe we'll get back on and, after my vacation, I'll come back on and we could talk about intersectional, collective salvation or whatever. And we could talk about kneeling down in front of someone to repent for a sin that's not yours is immoral. We could talk about that. We could talk about corporate repentance. We could talk about all of that stuff. When you talk about the first church of intersectionality, I mean, that's a discussion that I think that we're going to be having for quite some time. And I thought that maybe just today, even if I feel like I was off a little bit, maybe just, I'm going on vacation tomorrow. My mind's in a million different places. I just spent 2 hours walking around Walmart with Violet Corbeau. That's enough to drain the life out of any man. But, just something kind of good and pure. So, I feel like maybe that's what we need is, something about Dick Meadows' story that just leaped out to me today. And that's, I guess, the point of all of this. And I'm sorry for babbling, but I really do feel like the show isn't all about dick jokes and blowjobs and wizards. I feel like we're talking about stuff that really does matter at some level or another. And if you're still listening to this, I would like to remind you, because I fucking forgot to remind you through this whole thing, that the 4th anniversary of the Abercast is coming up. When's it coming up? I gotta grab my notebook. June 28th. I mentioned that I was going to open up a line of conversation to anyone who wanted to ask any kind of questions or talk about any of their episodes and stuff. So that's still open if you want to get in on that. And I'm John, and this has been the Abercast. And thank you very much. I hope you enjoy it. And we'll get back. We'll do some crazy shit next week, okay? I'll get back on anarcho-communism, okay? I promise. It's going to happen. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the new Patreon supporters. Thank you for your old Patreon supporters. And you guys who are just like, hey, this cancel culture is coming up fast and everybody is a potential target. You never know. I might be gone tomorrow. I mean, not like, I don't think anyone's going to come and black bag me, but, it's possible that I could just it could happen. It's always funny to me, like, how many of these paranormal, occult paranormal / the podcasts that are kind of in the vein that I go on are just so left-leaning. It hurts sometimes. So I'm always like, when it happens, bro, it's going to happen to me first. My little, not mine, our little podcast is going to be on the block one of these days, Just sign into the mailing list, I guess. We'll always find each other that way. I'm John, this is the Abercast. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Send an email or visit us on social media to let us know what you think about this topic. And please remember to leave a 5-star rate and review.
Hey, did you learn something? Did you laugh? Supporting me is a way for you to be a part of the Abercast and ensure its growth and sustainability. It also means I can create a normal schedule for shows and bonus shows, as well as the exclusive Fellowcraft episodes. By supporting the show, you are not only a listener, but you are a part of the show. You supporting the show gives me a way to offer fun rewards as a thank you for showing your appreciation and support for our projects. Do you have an idea for a reward that you don't see? Let me know. My supporters are my partners. I currently pay for you to listen to the Abercast. Not only do I pay the hosting bills out of my own pocket, I volunteer my time and talent to each and every episode of the Abercast. The price of books, the time and resources of reading and researching, the massive amounts of gin and tonic needed, the equipment it takes to record the shows, the time and resources it takes to create the bonus material, and the cost to maintain the internet presence. Is it worth your support? I don't know. I am proud of the Abercast, and I feel like I'm improving all the time. In addition to creating the show that you dig and that you are excited about, I also have a full-time commitment and other obligations. So why financial support? All of the supporters help me focus my time on the quality and development of the podcast. And what if you can't afford, $1 or $3 or $10 or whatever a month? Believe me, I get that. There are many degrees of support, but if you can't support the show financially, please consider leaving a 5-star rate and review on your preferred podcast app. And don't forget that you can sign into the mailing list and still unlock a lot of bonus content. Thank you. I cannot put into words how much it means to me that you listen to the show each time I post a new episode. Your feedback, support, and love of the stories that we talk about here is what keeps me going.